at conferences, we actually get people coming up to us because we've got distinctively Australian accents. I don't expect it's going to happen in Canada where you hear it a lot. But we have people come up to us and say, just shut up and speak.
Set up there.
Oh my God, what is that? Is that
deer.
This is deer.
Yeah. So welcome to the next episode of Over a Pint. This week we have Peter from Box Brownie here at the Banff Western Connection Conference. So why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
My name's Peter Schravemade. I'm here actually in Canada. We've just arrived, myself and Lucy have just arrived from boxbrownie.com headquarters on the Sunshine Coast. And we long plane trip, but we're happy to be here. I am the strategic relationship manager for boxbrownie.com. So I run around mainly America, but also now Canada and the rest of the world. And I introduce people to boxbrownie.com. We're a marketing, engine for real estate agents or property brokers.
Awesome. So we just literally went to the local liquor store and picked up random craft beer. So today we're drinking Velvet Fog, a Canadian wheat ale from Wild Rose Brewery.
Yeah, and it's the nickname of a jazz singer. One of Wild Rose's founders. Well, there you go.
They're just fans?
Right, yeah. So you're going to kill me with this?
Oh, that's good.
Do I need a good doctor?
We'll find out. I've had a few where I've taken a sip and be like, oh, it's terrible.
So what happens then? Do you have to keep going with it?
Oh yeah, we just go I don't like stouts, and one time it was all I had left because I just bought a bunch and I don't like it at all. And I was like, oh, this is not terrible. And we don't always drink beer too. Some people just don't drink.
Yeah.
It's we had one guy on, Kale Smoothie, he was drinking for his.
Kale Smoothie.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, bro.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Mm-hmm. Over a pint with Andy.
How long have you been in the real estate industry?
Well, I started when I was 18, and that was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm 41 now, to give you some idea. And I started out just as everyone does, as a salesperson and running around. Yeah. Our industry is a bit different to the Canadian and the American industries in that when you are a salesperson, you're doing everything. You're listing and selling. We only have one agent. So I started out doing that. Wasn't really aware of your industry. And then I jumped through a bunch of hoops to go into other areas. Commercial was one, residential letting or ended up being hotel letting, so short stay and long stays. And property acquisition even in there. So I've done kind of a bit of everything over the last 20 odd years, 23 years I think it is.
So how'd that turn into Box Brownie?
Yeah, well, in my last role, I was the operations manager for a hotel franchise in Australia. So I would have to set up the hotel and then we would obviously let them out of spaces. And I had a good friend of mine who was in the tech industry and he came up to me and he said, hey, I've got this idea. Originally for an app, Box Brownie was intended to be an app, and those of you who don't know, we're largely a web-based platform, so not really an app. There's not a Box Brownie app per se. He told me the idea of the app, and I thought it was brilliant. Largely along the lines of enhancing property imagery and doing it fairly affordably. But that was kind of 2 years before I actually got involved. Other than as an advisory. He asked me for advice on directions forward and whatever else. And then a couple of years later, I actually saw a job advertised for a personal assistant. Yeah. And I'd resigned my job by that stage. I've got a fairly decent resume. not big noting myself. But I had
kind of a big deal.
Only in Australia.
That works.
Yeah.
It's even a real place.
We're all actors. So I applied for the personal assistant role and they gave me a call and they said, are you joking? And I'm like, no, So that's how I got involved with Box Brownie. I came in, I wouldn't even call it an interview. We had a chat around the table and they said, what do you think? And I said, I think the company has loads of potential and I'd like to have a look at it. And so it sort of started there, and that was only really 3 years ago. And now we're the biggest at what we do in the world by some way. So it's been a heck of a ride, a very humbling ride actually, especially in North America. Yeah. When you meet people, it'll happen tomorrow. I bet I'll meet a Canadian who, we haven't been here. We haven't had anything to do with Canada. who is using our service, I find that.
Yeah, I know quite a few who use it.
Yeah, I find that absolutely nuts because, you know, I know it's a good tool, but you don't realise until you go to another. I suppose it must be like a musician listening to their own song on the radio for the first time.
That was the first time I walked into a brokerage after I started this show. Like, an agent comes to me and goes, "You're the beer guy." And I was like, "I am." And then 2 weeks ago, someone stopped me in a Starbucks for a selfie. Didn't know them. They're just like,
"Let's go.
Hey, can I have a selfie? I love your show." And I'm like, and then it was like my sister's niece, so my niece's birthday party. One of the person's like, "My husband loves your show," and I'm like,
"Let's go."
I don't even know who you are.
Whereas I just run into you at random conventions. That seems to be the way it works.
It's true. We were, was it NARS the last time?
At the Core Logic party.
Yeah, because there's always those. This is always the thing with conferences, and especially when you start coming to more and more, it's like you see these people from Facebook, and they don't always look the same either.
Yeah.
And they'll come up and talk to you like they're your best friend.
Well, I didn't know who Andrew was the last time.
That happens all the time.
It took me a while. And
then you saw a post about it the next day. You're like, "Oh, that was you."
Yeah. Do you get brokers adding you?
Oh, yeah, I got
who then follow 15 minutes later with "please like my page"?
I just ignore those. I would never like that.
That happens to me all the time.
So what I get a lot
Sorry if you've done that, by the way.
So because my company is called Just Sell Homes, there's a large percentage of people who don't realize we're a marketing agency.
Right.
And they think we're a brokerage.
Right.
So we get people like trying to recruit me to join their brokerage. And they see I have a team. They're like, "Yeah, like we got great compensation plans for teams." And I'm like, "Can you just like spend like 5 minutes? Look me up. Then let's chat again." They don't come back.
I now religiously, when I get invited to like a page, like it'll be Joe Smith Real Estate Phoenix, let's say, just to throw a random name in there, or KW Agent Phoenix, whatever it is. And I actually go through that page and look at the marketing that they've used on their home, and if it's poor, I'll download it and re-edit it and send it back to them. And if I get a response to that, I'll leave them. If I don't, I'm like, well...
Yeah, I've done that move I actually love doing. So I do the same with Facebook, because now there's that switch where you can look at anyone's actively running Facebook ads. So I'll just go on to agents' pages
and see how
look at them do it and rewrite them, and then send them back and be like, do it this way.
Good move.
And half the time you just end up getting hired from it.
That's great.
So it works out pretty well. Those messages are so annoying.
Yeah, I've got to say though, like there's not too many people when I edit their pictures and send them back that don't go, "Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Thanks for that." So yeah,
it's a nice little, here's some value. Enjoy. That's good. So how, we've talked about this before, but like how often, actually before we get to how often you come to North America, when did that kind of like jump happen where you guys were like Australia based and then, because you guys kind of like especially the past little while exploded in North America. When did that happen?
Well, we were having...
Was it an effort to do that, or?
It was less effort than we thought. So when it first started, we were having Coronas actually. We used to be in a garage about double the size of this space. I don't know how many feet this room is. I'm a square meter guy, but
it's like 10 by 20.
Yeah, it was kind of
5,
maybe 3 times the size of this space, the garage that we used to work out of at Box Brownie, and we used to share that with a web company. So on Friday afternoon, one of us would get a couple of Coronas and we'd sit with the Coronas and we'd drink a few of them. And we were sitting and it was kind of silent, which was unusual. Generally, we just shoot the breeze. Do you have that saying over here? Yeah, shoot the breeze. We shoot the breeze, and we were sitting there, and I think it was, I turned around to Mel and said, "Hey, those Americans, they speak English too." Because up until that point, we hadn't thought of putting an advert out to America, and so we did. We advertised to America, and we got a lot wrong. It was all through Facebook initially. So over the Christmas period of 2016, 2017, in that kind of bracket there, we put a Facebook advert out. We tried one and that tanked. We put an advert out advertising our virtual staging product. And it said, "Would you like warm, homely furniture in your house?" Now, you're laughing because homely over here means terrible. Not stuff, not stuff you'd want in your house.
Not pretty.
In Australia, homely means it's beautiful, it feels warm, it's lovely furniture. Everyone wants homely furniture in their house. Anyway, so we put this Facebook advert and it said, "Warm, homely furniture." And we just got caned. Is this a joke? Fire your marketing guy. Hey, it's me.
I'm the marketing Delete that comment.
So it wasn't until we phoned an American, so to speak, like phone a friend. Tell me what's wrong with this statement. He goes, well, are you trying to advertise furniture or give it away? Advertise. Yeah. He said, don't call it homely. And so we Googled it on Urban Dictionary, and homely was like squatters furniture or something.
Yeah, like it's not a nice term.
Yeah, had no idea. So we put out, like, probably about by the fifth or sixth tweak of that ad, it started to go viral, and really viral. Like, I think it got over 100,000 shares in the end. Oh, nice. And up to, a couple of million views. Yeah. And it was obviously generating people back to our website. But I think there were a few things that we had right. We got the quality right by that stage. We still had issues with scale back then. Yeah. So we hadn't quite nutted that out. And the price was right. So we were doing it at $32 per image. And all of the other people who were staging, the quality was way less, and it was up around the $96 per image mark. Yeah. But at $32, you can probably, stage 3 or 4 rooms for a house. It's actually a no-brainer. Like, if you were going to leave it vacant, it's probably, the joke's on you, because it's only $32 an image. So we think we'd gotten that right. And that slowly spread, and as that spread, we started getting phone calls, and those phone calls would come from various people. But one of them came from a guy by the name of Craig Rao. Actually, it was an email, and it went through to junk. Craig Rao is one of the tech reviewers for Inman.
Yeah, I know him.
Now,
I don't know him, but I know of him.
Yeah, well, he's actually a pretty good mate of ours now. We've caught up with him a few times, because a lot then came off the back of the review that he did. But the funny part about Craig's correspondence, firstly it went through to junk, so I found it a month after it had come through and responded to it then. But I didn't know, I'd never heard of Inman. Yeah. I thought it was In Man, and it might have been a gay magazine. I don't know.
No clue.
Yeah, no.
Or like short for like international something.
I had no idea. Yeah. But, we were trying at that stage to follow up every single inquiry that came through. So I sent back, did the interview with this guy, didn't see him, didn't hear from him. Then one weekend, we just got this huge spike of users, like huge spike, to the extent that was one of the first times we had to fix scale, getting images in and delivering them back when we said we would. I think we had about 1,000 people join off the back of the advert over the weekend. And we definitely didn't have, it's a good problem to have. But
that is what sinks a lot of companies, is they're actually too successful too fast.
Yeah, well, we were concerned back in those days, and we kind of made a decision after that weekend that we would never have that problem again. So we then built a bunch of boring algorithms in the back end that kick in when work is getting higher than what we expect. Yeah. And so we can onboard editors fairly easily, because all of our processes are manual. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
So on the homely thing, like how many other things like that have happened where it's like the differences, like the minor differences in cultures that have affected you guys coming over? Because like you just said, you just hired your first American.
There are hundreds. There are hundreds of things. It happens nearly every day. I was telling, we hired our first American, and I was telling him about a time I was on stage in front of about 1,000 people. And I was talking about property marketing, and one of the things we do in the image enhancement model, which is like a $1.60, is we remove, I'm going to describe it to you. It's the hose that goes in the pool that sucks the leaves and things away. We call it a creepy crawly, right?
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
So, I had a pool growing up. We did call it that.
What do you call it?
No, we called it that.
You call it that. Okay, well, the Americans don't know what a creepy crawly is. So they have no idea. So I'll set a creepy crawly, and they're like, what's going on? Yeah. And then I've gone, all right, you don't call it that. What do you call it? Then one guy yells out, we call it a pool snake. A pool snake. Yeah. Well, a pool snake in Australia is where someone's jumped into the pool without pants on. So perfect. I said it over the microphone. It took 5 minutes to calm them all down. I'm getting these social media quotes. Best quote of the day. Pool snake is when someone jumps in the pool without pants on.
That's awesome.
So there's always terminology differences. So we make more mistakes than not, I suppose.
But as long as you're like fun about it, it's always normally pretty good.
We learn pretty quickly too. So
and I think it adds to like the fun too of like the authenticity of being a real person when you you make the jokes about the pool snakes.
Yeah, well. if someone told me there was a pool snake, I mean, it's either one that's going to kill you in Australia or it's something you should be worried about.
Well, it's really like here, because like really all we hear about Australia is basically just like deadly animal after deadly animal.
Yeah.
And you actually talk to Australia, like, there's not that many day to day with.
Yeah. I mean, we hired Mike Farrow, who's our new, we call him the American. Yeah. But he came over and expected to be eaten by a shark on impact at the beach. It doesn't happen. There's no like thousands of sharks that are just going to grab you.
You're waiting.
Yeah,
Sharknadoes every other week.
Spiders. I totally gassed his apartment to get rid of any kind of spiders that were in there because they look scary. Like some of them, they come out and they're that big, and you can see they're about that big, and they run around that furry, so they look like a tarantula. But
that's what's nice about Canada. Winter just kills them all off. So they only get to a certain size, they die off, and they start at the beginning again in the spring.
Yeah, no.
So ours are nice and small.
Yeah, we don't have a winter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so how do you like this then?
Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah,
you actually don't have bad weather right now. Like last week it was like -20.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Right. But how does it, I mean, it gets colder, but how does that impact everything? Is it driving or
driving's more... So at that temperature, generally, you don't get a lot of snow because it's almost too cold. You still get some, but normally driving's not bad. It's like the ice when it ices over. That's when driving's terrible, and anytime it's snowing, people forget how to drive.
Right.
But that cold doesn't really affect that much. Like you gotta warm your car a little longer. Like you just have the auto starter. You start it and you go out to your car 15 minutes later.
Oh, that's what that thing is.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the help. And like the seat heaters.
Yeah, right.
Then the heated steering wheels, you really don't need that where you are.
No.
But do you have air-conditioned seating?
No. Well, there's no seating that's air-conditioned. You can get...
My dad had a Mercedes growing up where the actual seat had like little perforated holes, and in the summer you could put air conditioning through it.
Well, I've never seen that, but I don't know. Yeah. No, but a sensational drive on the way here.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
I brought with me Lucy, and both of us were sitting there going, "This is."
You left her beer way out of arm's reach.
Lucy,
you can just read across the.
Lucy is off camera. There she is. Oh, look, we got the start of her head.
Yeah. Great shot. It's going viral.
No, that's all good. It looks beautiful. It's really amazing place.
Are you gonna make time to head up to Lake Louise while you're here?
I don't know what that is, but
make time to head up to Lake. It's like 50K away.
Is it?
Beautiful.
Yeah, right.
There's another Fairmont there, but then they have like this beautiful lake. It's actually nicer in the summer just because it's like glacier water, so it's like that beautiful turquoise.
Right.
But then there's like these two mountains at the back that come down like this, and it's just like a perfect shot.
Yeah.
But like if you go there, you'll be like, I've probably seen this postcard. Yeah. With this picture a million times.
Well, yeah, we don't have scenery like this. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Is I can drive for hundreds of kilometres in Australia and not see a tree. And like some people think that's iconic, and there's red dirt, which is pretty cool. Yeah. It's a different look, but it's certainly like driving down the mountain and looking at snow-capped mountains is it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing I love out here, but like even back home where I am, like I'm in the Toronto area.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's pretty dull from a geography standpoint. Like you can go up to like Muskoka and there's like beautiful lakes and but just as like a general, we don't have anything like this.
No, well, I drove to Vail in Colorado recently, and that was similar.
The closest,
It's similar, but it still wasn't the same.
Yeah, no, this is like one of this. Like I check here and then check Whistler if you can.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you're probably actually in the majority in terms of Australian versus Canadian.
They told me that would happen in Banff and Whistler. So
those are the two main ones, but they're everywhere. Yeah. Like every service job generally you find
is done by an Australian. Yeah, well, good on them.
Yeah, it works.
Getting around the world.
Easy place to hang out.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. That's funny because then you go to some places and then it's like all Canadians in some parts of Australia.
We do have quite a few Canadians. Actually, the ski resorts, we've got a lot of Canadians over in Australia, so we must just swap, have an agreement.
Yeah, be easy.
Yeah.
Good to go. So what do you find, like, so do you, like, at conferences, you do mostly, like, you get a booth, and then you just gotta, like, take people in that way? Like, how do you find success at conferences?
Yeah, a lot of it has been through the ability to deliver content. So our product is extremely visual. Like, sitting here talking about it, there's probably a bunch of people who listen and wondering what
we'll have to link it up in the comments.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Depending on the platform, it'll be up there or down there.
Yeah, wherever it is. But like if you actually go and see it, you understand. Most people, it's quite easy to explain to them if you've got something visual to go, this is before and after. But yeah, so booths do work. Like we wouldn't be at conferences. A lot of the bigger ones, they work, but certainly we ride off the back of speaking opportunities. So a lot of people ask me to come and talk about, the best ways to market property or trends, what I'm seeing, how that impacts on the world, or localized issues like in America at the moment. Ethical marketing is a big one where I don't believe a lot of people actually understand what is ethical and what is not ethical, and there doesn't seem to be a centralized body like NAR, for example, has ethical principles, but a lot of it's defined at MLS level.
Yeah,
and a lot of the MLSs struggle. Number one, with terminology. A lot of the MLSs refer to a virtual tour as what we would call a 360 photographic tour, just to give you an example. So, there are these things that sort of get in the way. So a lot of the time I have spent on the road is more in an educational perspective, talking to people about, hey, here's the potential, this is what you could do with your marketing. Debunking myths, is it expensive to do 360 photographic tours? Well, it's not, but a lot of people think it is, because the major player in the industry was selling a $5,000 and $6,000 camera for such a long time. Most people think that that's just out of reach. It's something that they can't do, but there are alternatives that are quite good. So I speak about that. More recently, copyright in photography in America has been a big issue where
Zillow's under some hot water.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, that court case generally sparked it, because what happens in Australia is we own the rights to anything the photographer's done. That's an agreement that's written with the photographer before we take them on board. So we find it such a foreign concept that the photographer has such power against the agent in America to turn around and go, actually, those are my photos and I'm going to sue you for having them up beyond this date.
Yeah, and that also depends on the photographer too, because like when I sold, that was just something I told the photographer that I hired, be like, I'm not, like, we want the copyright.
Yeah, correct.
Now normally we have to pay more for it. So
not
much.
Well, I don't really know the differences, I suppose, in what the costing is, but for $150 in Australia, you can get a reasonable amount of photos taken for a house and own the copyright straight up.
Yeah, it's similar. Like, I think I was probably, like, to buy the copyright, I think I was closer to 200.
Yeah,
it's in the right.
But see, I would probably not go with that photographer.
Yeah.
I would turn around and find one that did what I wanted to do, because you could argue that there's a small artistic transaction, and I think that comes down to understanding photography as well, because you will have. Brad Filipponi, who's the owner-founder of the company, he tells me famously that there is 3 parts to a photo shoot. 1/3 of it is probably actually at the shoot, taking photos. 2/3 of it is probably spent in editing. Yeah. And the reality is none of the photographers actually edit their photos anymore. They send it away to people to do it.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say none. There's a percentage that do, and they're quite good at it. The 2/3 of the time is probably the creative part, aside from actual camera angle, and how you're shooting. So my belief is that it's a commercial transaction. It should be viewed as that. So I'm hiring you to come take photos. Those photos will belong to me because they are for advertising a property. So that's the deal. Yeah. Sign here on the line. If you don't like it, I'd just find another one. I hate to say it, but there are lots of photographers who just won't treat it as that.
Big teams that we work with now just have an in-house photographer.
Yeah,
and that's how they do it, because it's so much easier. Yeah. But I mean, they are at such a volume, like 5 to 10 new listings a week, one of them. And like, might as well get an in-house.
So that, I mean, that's another issue we deal with quite frequently over here. I think I've only met less than 5 people who would have an agreement with their photographer in America. Less than 5 agencies. And yes, I've heard some have it in-house and they haven't had a need for an agreement. Yeah. But a lot of the brokers and agents I meet over here certainly aren't even aware that it's a problem.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking back to like when I was selling and doing it too. Like it never even came up when, like, really for the most part being hired. Like I think it was like a year and a half in, I heard it at a conference, someone talking about it, and I was like, oh. So I just like went far. I'm like, I want to make sure I own the copyrights.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good way to be. Like, it's probably a big tip. You may only use it once a year. Mm-hmm. It'll be where Agent X down the road steals all your photos to go and advertise the house that they've just ripped off your listing plate for whatever reason. And you can turn around and go and cease and desist.
Well, we do that anyways. We're going to get
probably gives you a bit more weight because you own the...
When I sold my house, the people who bought it were just immediately turning it into a rental. And that's they came to it. But they asked permission, like, can we use the photos to advertise the rental? And I was like, yeah, sure.
If you don't own it anymore, most people wouldn't care. So.
With my house, I especially didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm moving out.
That's good. That's it. Yeah.
They just wanted mine that had the furniture in it.
Yeah.
Instead of when they got it, it was empty. So it'll look better with the furniture in it.
Yeah, agreed.
And they staged it, so.
Oh, you actually paid for staging?
Well, it's my house, I had connections. I didn't pay for it.
Oh, okay, right.
But yes, if I would have paid. But through connections, I didn't need to.
Good one.
It's all about deal making. It works.
Oh, I'll give you these coffee beans in exchange for the beer then.
My own coffee beans back to me.
Well, we nearly got 2 more bags of that because they hand them out at reception. Yeah. But we can't take them back to Australia, so we just gave them back. But they say good day, mate.
It sounds so unnatural.
I know, it's crazy.
So there's an interesting one like that whenever we get American speakers up to a Toronto event.
Right.
It's because you know they're American because they say Toronto.
Oh, right.
Everyone in Toronto, it's almost like we say like TRONNO. It's just Toronto.
Toronto. No, Toronto.
But every American who comes up or they're talking to you, like, oh, I love Toronto. And they're like,
you're not from around here.
No, you're not local.
Yeah.
Because at least with some parts of the US, there's no different in accent. They sound like they could be from here. And then the second they say that, you're like, American.
Yeah, you get that a bit in Scotland too, where they don't pronounce their T's. So you always know the person's not from Scotland because they're pronouncing it Scotland as opposed to Scotland.
Yeah.
They just totally remove the T. It becomes silent.
They're just saying it so fast.
Scottish.
You want another beer?
Yeah, I'd love another one. What are we drinking this time?
Whatever you want. I think there's only 2 kinds in there.
Let's go the green one.
All right.
Here's one.
The green one is IPA Strong Ale. I like to say strong
From
ale.
the Beardmeister craft beer.
Nice. 6.3% alcohol.
Oh, gee. A couple of these down there.
Yeah. We'll finish that 6-pack.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah.
So what's next for Box Brand?
For us? Well, we're expanding. Obviously, we're going to different countries, hence us being here. Actually, we've been trying to identify conferences to go to in Canada for some time. And
I can give you a list.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, this was obviously one of them, the next available conference. So we came to this, but we are expanding through the UK, EU. Yeah. We already have presence there, but it's nowhere near as big as what it is in America.
Did you talk to have you talked to Remax Integra because they own Europe?
We have, yeah. Okay. So we got a fairly good relationship with Remax in general. Yeah. We have dialogues going there, and Remax also have a lot of agencies in different countries. So those conversations are, I suppose, ongoing. But we will move. We'll go wherever the clients are, I suppose. It's just America was the biggest and probably the first to jump on board and say, hey, we really like this product. And all the feedback that we got from, let's phrase it as North America, because Canada too, we have quite a lot of users. It's just we haven't ever come to Canada and gone, hey,
the US is 10 times bigger.
Yeah, well, that's right. So, that was the lure. But, now I suppose we have our American staff member on board, a representative there, and he'll continue to follow leads through. And doesn't mean I'm stopping going to America. I'll be in Edmond next week and all of the usual ones that I go attend, NAR and whatever else. But, look, I mean, we've got new products coming on all the time as well. So I suppose there's that side of it. We're always looking to find different ways to assist any kind of marketing within agents' scope. So there's that. Box Brownie continues to release a product called Book a Photographer in Australia.
Yep.
And that's your photo shoots from $69, which is the equivalent of about 55 American, about 65 here.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so we are doing really well with that in Australia, and we don't have plans at this stage to bring it to North America, but
it's all different infrastructure for that.
It is, but the thought process is there, and the theory is that we could at some stage. So the Book of Photographer platform's it's pretty good, and it has ramifications from sort of Airbnb all the way through to used car You'll see an automotive product out this year as well in used car sale, because obviously new cars they have them all shot and whatever else. But
yeah, they already look nice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's certainly in used car that'll be a thing that we go down the line of, and there's also retail which we appeal to. Mm-hmm. We already have quite a foothold in building and development in the render area, the render and CGI, and we have another product called virtual renovation, which was only new last year, and that's been gaining momentum quite quickly. So, excuse me, along the lines, we just can't try to push everything forward, as one. But it's good fun, good fun product. No one seems to get upset when we improve an image. So.
Yeah. Oh, this is awful. You made it look so much better.
That's right.
Fuck. So because you're here so much, is there any talks you having to move to North America, or are you going to be pretty easy to stay?
Oh, you'll have to talk to my wife. I floated the idea. There's always been a thought process about moving somewhere in North America. Yeah. But, I don't know. In a year, it might be that we're expanding in the UK and that's the place to move to. I suppose for an Australian startup, the geographical location of Australia...
It's tougher.
Yeah.
It's long to go anywhere.
Yeah, it makes it much more difficult. So, it could be... We could even move to the UK, which would then give us a quicker flight here. I hold an EU passport, so I hold a Dutch passport, so there's that as well. But I don't know, we're really happy. When you come to Australia and you see the place that we live, it's pretty hard.
A little warmer.
Yeah. Well, but that's Box Brownie news. I mean, we'll continue to go to conferences and do stuff around here. We love it here. So
you start doing all the vendor parties or what? Hosting the Box Brownie open bars.
You know what? We haven't done one yet. Yeah. We've been invited to. We just find the amount of money that conferences ask for that kind of things is a lot. We've considered a few unsanctioned parties because we are partial to a good party. Yeah. So there are a couple of
different conferences they don't mind if you do that.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's some who absolutely do mind.
Yeah, so I suppose if we did an unsanctioned party, we'd always run it by the conference organisers. But we've considered it. We've just never done it. So I don't really know why that is. I just think every time we look at it commercially, the return on investment for a party is maybe not as high as it could be spent elsewhere.
Yeah, we actually do our own full conference every year.
Right.
And every year we lose money on it.
Yeah.
But from a client relationship community building, it's been huge.
Yeah.
But we also lose money because 100% goes to charities, all ticket sales.
Okay.
So it's entirely sponsors and then us.
Yeah.
Then we've recently added a day 2 mastermind, which is profit, but it's really just to cover the cost of the conference itself.
I think in Australia we are getting into that space now where we're viewed also not just as a vendor or a sponsor, but we're viewed as pioneers who've done. We're not the first to crack into the US or globally, but we're current. So a lot of the current, let's say, property technology startup companies look at us as a leader and want us to sort of mentor them or assist them. Yeah. So coming up around the major Australian real estate convention that we have there, we will do almost like an unconference or a rebar kind of setup 2 days beforehand, where we meet with those guys and everyone just swaps ideas.
You need a speaker.
We'll come out. Do you know we have no shortage of North American speakers offering their services?
Every time, there's conferences in Hawaii, I'm ever. Just send me a note. I'm there.
The National Association of Realtors Property Management, the NAPM as they call it, it is in Hawaii this year, and you should have seen the outrage that caused on Facebook. No one wants to go there, but all the speakers are happy to attend.
Any chance that happens, I'm let's go.
Yeah,
I'm in. I have an event coming up in San Diego. I'm perfect. Yeah, I'm going to another in Miami. I'm say no more.
Yeah, right.
You heard Miami, and I'm leaving Canada in the winter. I'm in.
Yeah, well, there was a Remax conference in the Bahamas apparently.
Yeah.
At the end of last year, we didn't get to that, but
I'm looking at hosting one in Costa Rica.
Yeah, right.
But it'd be more mastermind. So I want to rent a villa and then just do like a 10 to 12 person, like get team leaders in.
Yeah.
And do like 3 days of masterminding, 3 days of learning to surf.
Yeah, we got invited to one of those in Peru, but we couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Yeah, but normally not cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
And I guess for you guys it's a little more expensive.
Yeah. Well, it depends on where it is, I suppose.
Yeah, that's not bad. So like for when you do like these conferences, like if you say like have this one, you got Inman right after, and there's like a week until the next one, would you just stay, or would you fly home for the week?
We find something to do. Like generally, that was me at the end of last year. There was 4 months here, less 5 days, and it was one after the other and so we just organise another event in between. And even if it didn't have the return on investment that we were looking for, we'd still arrange
here. So
so we just try and slot them in as best they fit, sort of matching our selection criteria for an event or a conference. But
that's good.
Yeah, it was hectic, but it was we covered a lot of ground. So.
Yeah, this past conference season I found was like my busiest one ever. Like, it was non-stop.
Well, I counted over 160 conferences for us last year.
How many of those were you?
It was a lot. there were 3 of us travelling. I actually think there would have been substantially more than that, than the 160, including like day conferences and. I have an invite to MC over in Australia and those kind of things. There probably would have been a lot more, but they were just the majors that we attended.
So when you're looking at, like, because you obviously got to travel all the way from Australia for a conference here, like, is there a minimum size or length for you guys to consider coming over for a conference here?
There used to be, like, we used to look at the size as though it was the be-all and end-all, but we've come to realise that that's not necessarily that doesn't make or break a conference these days. I think if we had to look for something above anything else, definitely the opportunity to present. There's nothing I dislike more than attending a conference where the content on digital marketing is rubbish. Because that looks like we've effectively put our money, into getting those people. So I really struggle with that. I struggle turning up and hearing somebody speak and not know what they're talking about when it comes to marketing.
Oh, I hate that bug, especially like, look, all I do is Facebook ads, like day in, day out, and you get someone up there talking, just listen to one. And she's like, well, Instagram, you're going to get about 10 times your return than on Facebook. I'm like, I'm pulling up the stats. And I'm literally averaging 8 times more leads for the same price on Facebook than Instagram.
And that would make sense. We... Even just in the area of photography, what is ethical, what is not. There seem to be, some speakers who are on a circuit and they are hired by the associations because they're on that circuit, not necessarily because of the content that they.
I find like getting hired here for speaking, it's more about the relationships than content. Like here this is one of the first times this conference where I was vetted pretty hard. Like Bill flew out to see me speak in Ontario. And like there were interviews, I had to like pitch one, and then there's so many others where it's like, oh yeah, can you come talk? I'm like, sure, about what? They're like, marketing. I'm like, okay. How long do you want? They're like, does 60 minutes sound good? I'm like, sure. And then like it's such like a wide range. We're like here, like it was extensive.
Well, I think it comes back to that word, like you said before about relationship. We really look in a conference for some kind of relationship to be there. Like we want them to want us there.
Not the annoying guy trying to knock the door down.
Well, because there's 2 ways they view you. One is as a sponsor or a vendor, if you want to call it that. And the other is as a guest speaker or educational content provider. And I get it. I understand that at conferences, nobody wants to hear a land title company get up and talk about
it's about as dull as it gets.
The amazing services that they offer. I understand that, and if you're part of a land title company and you're watching, I love you.
But it's dull.
But that, I understand that not every sponsor or vendor's message is relevant. But we see so much of the world now. We see what they're putting out. We see what they're doing well, what they're not. There are a lot of, I find it crazy when we attend an event and there's somebody else talking about marketing. And if their content's good, I have no problem with that. But if their content's not, or, just even average, then I really question as to why conferences or events don't actually vet their sponsors for content.
I don't even generally like when they let sponsors speak.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's
I don't sponsor a good speaker session.
That stood in our way because we have a great message. We have great content to deliver. But because we're viewed as a sponsor, instantly they have a line through our name. So we've struggled with that a little bit. But by and large, I can send through enough video content for them to get an idea if they want it.
So do you apply to speak? Like NAR's going to be asking for speakers soon. So will you apply as a speaker?
We've only ever been invited. I think we've done an application recently for one, and that would be the first or second time I've done it. So a lot of them have been by invite. I mean, we would apply. We just. And we haven't. We've got that much going on, and we were part of the Reach program last year, the NAR Reach. So there's that as well. They were putting us on stage by default anyway. So
that works out.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So I do have a question. What does Box Brownie actually stand for?
Do you know what a box brownie is?
Nope.
Okay, well that's a good one. So
Australian thing.
No, well, not really. We get asked that a lot. Actually. We were just setting up over at the Western Connection conference, and a couple of guys came through and they muttered under their breath as they walked past, "That is totally not what I thought that stand would be." and there's always the disappointment in women's eyes, which I've had to endure since I was 16. I mean, but more when they turn up at our stand and they're expecting to get free closing gift brownies and it's not there. No, the box brownie is a camera. Actually, we've got one, but I didn't bring it with me to this room. We've got one on the stand, so you'll have to come and have a look. But it's a rectangular cube kind of configuration, and they were bought out in about 1900s. It was the first portable camera, or not portable, because cameras have always been portable. It was the first one that mums and dads could go and buy. And back then it would have been between £1 and £3, which was a lot of money. That's like $1,000 these days. So it wasn't a small investment, but they used to go out. You could buy them, you could take them home. They had the first kind of film on them that you'd shoot. But the boxbrownie.com, the Box Brownie slogan, they were actually known as the Brownie camera. Colloquially, they were known as the Box Brownie because it looked like a box. Yeah. And that slogan was, you take the photo, we do the rest, which is effectively what we do.
Yeah.
You take the photo. Yeah, it did. Well, that was the idea from the start, is that a lot of real estate agents were taking their own photos and we could enhance them. Or even for the photographers, most of them are trying to do 5 to 10 shoots a day and don't have time to edit it. So we could help them. Yeah.
That's certainly the idea. So when I originally was going to do it, the show, we were going to call it Craft of Marketing. It was always going to be craft beer. There's another industry podcast called Craft of Marketing. So I had to come up with a new name.
What are the chances of that?
And I think this actually works better though, because now I don't have to talk about marketing specifically.
Yeah.
And you probably saved a lot of money on not buying just craft beer.
Yeah, well, it became less and less of a thing, the beer side of it.
Yeah.
Because the original show, because comedians in cars getting coffee, I love that.
Yeah, I saw that, the Jerry Seinfeld one, right?
Yeah, and then Hot Ones, if you've ever seen that on YouTube.
I haven't seen that, no.
So it's this great show where you basically do two people lined up like this, and there's the host and the guest, but he gets big A-list celebrities on.
Yeah, right.
He had the Breaking Bad.
That guy
on, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And it's 10 hot wings, and they get progressively hotter.
Oh, wow.
The last wing is the just smelling it, you're dying in tears. Just smelling it. But it goes like that. And what's great about it is it's because they're all professional actors, media trained, they got the guard up in the first few wings. But then they're so focused on how much they're in pain and miserable that they let their guard down and talk like a real person.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, all right, what could I do? Because I don't need to do a million of these canned interviews where people are saying the same crap. I'm like, I want to have real conversations.
Yeah.
And I was like, what can I do? I'm like, well, I could get them drunk.
Great idea. Well, 2 beers doesn't get me drunk, just for the record. But
thanks for joining us for the last episode, or the latest episode. It's definitely not the last one. I don't know who we're going to show next week, so stay tuned for whoever we have. If people want to get a hold of you, your company, how do they do it?
Yeah, they can, or you can email me, peter@boxbrownie.com, or you can email the headquarters, which is hello@boxbrownie.com. Or we have, if you visit boxbrownie.com, we have instant chat message that's 24/7, and also a phone number that's localized to your area. So they're all 24/7. Just get in contact with me, send me a smoke signal, do something.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks
nice
for having
and easy.
me.
Well, thanks
Cheers.
for coming on.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'll go get you some root sweaters.
Cheers, mate.
G'day, mate.